Oh, it's so good to see all of you, and thank you. I appreciate those who come out on such a very warm day like this. I do appreciate it. But it's nice in here, isn't it? Yeah. You know, we have a theme today, and Barb even mentioned it. Thank you, dear. She mentioned that the theme is my title, In the Flow, the Miraculous Flow of Divine Energy. Which actually we could call this divine energy love. And the truth is, you know, last week we did truth. Truth is that which is absolute. It is changeless. It is now. It always has been. It always will be. That's truth. And here's the truth of you. That you live in the miraculous flow of divine love energy all the time. Well, we forget it, don't we? Yeah, we do. And so we're here to remind ourselves of that. That's the theme this morning. Now, this is also question time. Summertime, we ask questions. So you have asked me questions in many different forms. Some of them weren't written on a piece of paper. Some you just asked me, please talk about this. All right, but here's one thing you have to know. I am not the authority. I am not. I have the gospel according to Audrey, and I make it as close to that truth as I can. However, just know that you have the authority within you. You have the Christ Spirit within. And if something is said that you don't agree with or it doesn't resonate with you, don't take it. If you disagree with me, maybe we could have a conversation. I'd love that. No, this is what you need to remember. You are your own guru. G-U-R-U. You're it. There's something else you need to know too. That I could stand up here and talk to you all day long and it wouldn't change your life one bit. Not really. Because it's not me, my words, they don't have power for you. My thoughts don't have power for you. It's your thoughts and your words that have power. So yes, I might be speaking good words, but in between those words, it is you, the shift that happens inside of you. Something that maybe is said that resonates with you, and you say, oh yeah, that's it. Okay, I can do something different. And that's when the magic begins. Magic. We defined magic last week. Remember what it is? M-A-G-I-C. Me accepting God in consciousness. Me accepting this God power that lives within me, in my heart, in my mind. Me trusting this power to see me through whatever it is that I am going through. And the same for you. You accepting and trusting this power. Being in that flow, the miraculous flow of divine energy. That's magic. You know, before I came to Unity, I knew little or nothing about myself, about life, and how to have a relationship with God. I didn't understand any of that. I had been told Bible stories since I was probably that high. Oh, I don't know, maybe that high. But I had heard all these Old Testament stories. And I began to think to myself, wait a minute. This God has deplorable behavior. And yet this God expects me to have good behavior. And this God, when people displease this power, what did he do in those old stories? He just killed them, wiped out whole cities, beat babies' heads against rocks. That's what they did. Rape and kill women. Oh, what difference? God was displeased. And I began to see this God that could condemn people to hellfire in an instant. Frankly, I didn't want a relationship with that kind of God. And so this hellfire thing, it's come up again. And someone says, well, people do bad things. So doesn't there have to be a place for divine justice? Well, I don't know what you think, but I'd say no. But there was a French priest, when he was asked, do you believe in hell? And he said, well, yes, because it's the dogma of the church. I have to believe in it. But I don't believe there's anybody in it. And I could add to that, isn't it strange that we always want hell for somebody else, but we don't want it for ourselves? No. So hell, then, I was reading a story. It was about a former drug addict, this woman who had just ruined her life through the use of drugs. And she was telling her story about how she had lost everything, her job, her husband, her home, her children, and she found herself homeless, wandering on the street, beaten and abused by all the men that she chose to be with. She was eventually thrown into jail and then went into a rehab program. This is how she describes the joy of recovery. She says, first I thought that it was as if the gates of heaven had been opened and they let me in. But when I got to thinking about it, I thought, no, it's more like the gates of hell were opened and I let myself out. Hell, it's a state of mind. And I would dare say that every one of us in this room have been there. It's not a good place to be, but we have been there. So then the question always comes then, well, okay, what about heaven? Well, the old outdated way was to say, well, it's up there somewhere, it's up above the clouds, and God sits on a throne up there. No, we know that's not true. But all that outdated, all those things, give us all those jokes, don't they? All these old stories. And so you might remember little Bobby. Oh, he was a naughty kid. And his mother said to him one day, how in the world do you expect to get into heaven when you are so naughty? And he thought, well, let's see, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to run in and out and in and out, and I'm going to slam the door and slam the door until someone says to me, look, make up your mind. Either stay out or come in. And then I'm going to come in. I hope Bobby grows up to be this adult who understands that heaven is also a state of mind. It's inside. Do you know that Jesus made over 100 references to heaven, and never once did he describe it as a physical place out there? But he did give it a location. He said the kingdom of heaven is within you. It's within you. Jesus only talked about that inner experience. He wasn't concerned with other things. When we realize that the kingdom of heaven is within and that God dwells within us, everything in our whole life changes. When we get God out of the sky and into our hearts, everything is different. And this God then becomes a God of joy and of love. You were created out of love, because love is the only reality there is. Two ways we know to live, love or fear, but fear is an illusion. Love is the only reality. And so love then created created you, you are love. And then you are to be love in this world. Now, that's not easy, is it? Tell me, am I the only one that thinks that being love is not easy? Come on. It's not. We have things that influence us all day long to be loved. And then we have these people who come into our lives and introduce us to what we could call spiritual boot camp. It's tough. These people who do things to us in our lives and seem to mess things all up for us. But then I can say we're pretty good at doing that ourselves, too. We truly are. We're good at making wrong choices. Now open up the newspaper and you will see that there are people who have made horrendous choices. People who have caused so much pain to other people. We all know the story of the man who killed his 3 children. And it's so unbelievable that we can't get our minds around that at all. That someone could do that, to cause that much pain to other people, that actually put people through hell. That's what he caused. But there's a truth here also that we need to know. If this love that created you and me, did it create him? Yes. Yes, it did. And love doesn't condemn anyone. Now, this might be one of the times when you don't agree with me. That there are no bad people. There are only people who have made bad choices. If I call myself good, then everyone is good. The truth has to be for everyone. I can't have it just for me. It has to be for everyone. And so this man then, and all the other people in our lives that we think do such bad things, they were created out of love, the same as you and me. They have just made some horrible choices. Now, wouldn't it be great if we could all believe and come to that sense that we are all connected? Maybe we'd be making different choices if we really knew that we were one in spirit. Because that is the truth. We are one in spirit. There's only one of us here. That's it. Wouldn't it be great if we could make our choices out of that connectedness with others and with that sacredness? It was several years ago when Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut, came to town. And you might remember. I was so eager to go. Anybody remember that? I was so eager to go to hear what he had to say. And he started out by talking about the universe. He said, you know, we used to believe that the universe was really a dead thing, not much to it. But he said the universe is alive, it's intelligent, it's evolving, the same as you. You're alive and intelligent and evolving. But he said, that's not the way I went to the moon. I did not have that belief. I had my Christianity all tied up in a neat little package. And as he talked about that, I got the idea that his belief was one of heaven and hell. It was one of a devil. And it was one of a God that could be loving or could be condemning. But he didn't return from the moon that way. On January 31st, 1971, Apollo 14 lifted off from the pad at the Cape. And 3 days later, Edgar Mitchell and Alan Shepard were walking on the moon. And he said that was the experience that changed my life. It's hard to describe, he said, but it was an overwhelming sense when I look back at this little blue planet from that great distance. He said there was something, and it overwhelms me right now to think that here we are on this planet, all of us, people with diverse opinions and beliefs, different religions, and yet we are one. We just don't act like it. We are one. And he said, I had this sense that there was such sacredness in all of this. And he said, I'll never be the same again. Never. Now, you and I don't have experiences where we go to the moon. But I will say that every time that we have an experience that could shake us up a little, something that could resonate with our heart, something that gives us that aha moment, we're changed. And all our choices from that time forward are different. So Edgar Mitchell went to the moon as an explorer of outer space. And he came back as someone aware of inner space. He went to the moon as a scientist, and yes, he came back as a scientist, but also as a spiritual seeker. And in his words, because I can't remember exactly what he said, but the essence of what he said was, be good to each other. Live a good life. Be honest. Be a person of integrity. Drop the dishonesty. Drop the greed. Take care of each other. It's a good life. It's a good life. And of course, right now, the thought that popped into my head was Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets. We all remember him. He was such a kind man. He was funny, too. And he wrote a letter, as I recall, to his friends and family a few years before he passed. And he said, please, watch out for one another. Love and forgive everybody. It's a good life. Enjoy it. What beautiful advice. And yet some of us might say, well, that's a little dreamy. It's a good life. Yes, it is. Enjoy it. Yes, I'm trying. But the question was asked, well, now, wait a minute. What about everyday life? What happens in this life every day when I am presented with things that I didn't even expect? What do I do with that? How do I deal with the dark times and the struggles that I have? What do I do about that? Tell me. Well, I'm going to call upon a good man. His name is Moses. Moses was a strong and powerful person. And so I'm going to condense that story of Moses and the parting of the Red Sea. And I'm going to tell it not in a literal way, because I think that's quite difficult to believe. In fact, Cecil B. DeMille and Charlton Heston gave us this wonderful movie. It was full of drama and power, but it didn't make the story any more believable. You know, again, there was this this little guy who had been to Sunday school, and his mother asked him, well, what did you learn? Oh, I learned about Moses and the parting of the Red Sea. And she said, yes, well, what about it? And he said, well, this is how it went. Moses saw that the Egyptians were coming and they were going to overtake the Israelites, and so he got on his cell phone and he called the helicopters and the tanks and the artillery, and he was just going to bomb. And she said, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is that what they told you? Well, no, that's not what they told me. But if I told you what they told me, you'd never believe it. And the story does stretch our imagination to the max. Okay, so we're going to look at this story metaphysically. And all that means is that we are looking past the words, beyond the words, over the words, whatever, so that we get a richer meaning and we can make the story our own. Because this is our story. So the Israelites, they represent those good high thoughts that we have. And the Egyptians represent those thoughts that aren't so good. Those thoughts that might be worry thoughts, they could take us into misery, into distress, all kinds of things. And then we have Moses. He is that strong spiritual voice within us that says, you are going forward. That's what you're doing. You're going forward. So here we have then in the story that Moses was given the assignment to go to Pharaoh and say, let my people go. And Pharaoh said, no way. No, I'm not going to do that. And then, of course, we know all about the plagues and how Pharaoh finally said, take your people and get out of here. And so they did. Now you can imagine the Israelites, how happy they were. They were on their way to freedom. They were probably singing as they went along, so happy. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Pharaoh was saying to himself, now wait a minute, what have I done? I've let my slaves go. Well, who's going to do the work? I gotta go get them. So he readies his army, and he says, you go get these slaves and bring them back. And so here these Israelites now are walking along so happy, and they look behind them, and here is Pharaoh's army in hot pursuit. And they say to Moses, listen to what they say to him. What have you done to us? You have taken us out of Egypt, and you have brought us into the wilderness to die. Wouldn't it have been better if you had just left us there? Yes, it was in bondage, but wouldn't it have been better? Apply that to your life. You see, we have these high Israelite thoughts, and we're going on the road to freedom. And we're happy. This is a new way of life. And then, what happens? Well, then we discover that our problems are chasing us. Here they come. And suddenly, we're not so happy anymore. This new way, we're not too sure about that. That looks pretty hard. So we say to ourselves, well, why don't I just go back to the old way? I could do that. That would be easy. And the voice within us that is Moses says, no, you're not going back. You're going forward. And so Moses then gives us a formula. He gave it to the Egyptians. Well, no, he didn't give it to them. He gave it to the Israelites. Sometimes we get mixed up with all these names that we have to remember. He gave it to the Israelites, and he gives it to you and me. And here's the formula. Number 1, fear not. Fear not. Fear is not the way to live. It's an illusion. So don't live there. Don't live in it. And what really helps, as you said, Barb, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Fear not. The second step that he gave them was stop. Stop. Don't do anything. And isn't it the first thing we want to do? Let's go out in the world and fix it all. Oh, and let's fix this other person. Now, if that other person had been here today and they could have heard what was said, oh yeah, they needed this. No, but that other person isn't here. You're here. You're here. So if this has any meaning for you, you take it. But you see, we always have to think that we have to go out and fix people. We have to fix things in the world. And yes, there is a point where we do have to keep moving our feet. But first, what he meant by stop was you go to spirit within. Don't do anything. Quit your doing this. Go within and just be still. Be still. So now we have fear not, stop, and stand firm was the third one. Stand firm in what you know to be the truth of you. Now, what is the truth of you? How about all the I am statements we use? And Moses gave that statement. I am that I am. I am the I am. I am what? I'm waiting. I am
the light of the world.
Thank you. I am the light of the world. I didn't make that up. Jesus said that. You are the light of the world. That's the truth of you. And we could go on with a lot more truths than that. Let's remember that you and I are God's kids. We are God's beloved. All of us. Every one of us. And so that is the truth. That's what we stand firm in. In the divine flow, in that miraculous flow of this divine love energy. That's the truth. So we stand firm in that. And then the last thing was watch God fight for you. Watch and see what God will do for you. And what that means to me is let go and let God do God's mighty work. Get your little self out of the way. Isn't that a beautiful formula? And one thing that we need to add to that is thank you. Thank you, Spirit, for you see me through everything in my life. It doesn't matter how little it is. It doesn't matter how big it is. You are there for me always. The God that I talk to is the God that I walk with every day. And so in this then, this formula, just know, you can say, I am successful. I am an overcoming person. I can overcome. And I knowingly put myself in the miraculous flow of divine love energy. So my namaste today to you right now is that I see the divine love in you. I see that you are in that miraculous flow. I see it. I see it. That's my namaste to you this day.